This one, last comment of the day. Randall P. Very generic name. Is it made up? We'll never know. Did I just make this comment myself as a reason to talk about something? Perhaps. Randall P. says, reading an article on MLB.com about the Judge Ohtani MVP argument, they seem to feel pretty strongly that Aaron Judge is the runaway MVP this year. Just interested on Scott and Adam's thoughts relative to what happened with Vladdy Guerrero last year.
I think run away with it is a poor choice of words, personally. I think Aaron Judge is going to win the MVP. But I think it's going to be closer than people are giving it credit for. What are your thoughts? We've talked about this a few times now. We don't need to dwell on it too much, but...
Well, I mean, last year I was very much in favor of Vladdy. Obviously, being a Toronto fan, may have had some influence there. But when Ohtani won it, I had no choice but to accept the verdict and the precedent that was set, that being able to be like a top tier pitcher and a top tier hitter is an extreme asset to a team, right? You're getting the value of two players. And that's how I swallowed that pill. And I was okay with that. But I read this same article, and one thing that I didn't realize, the LA Angels have a 6-man rotation to accommodate Shohei Ohtani and the extra off days that he needs, because his off days as a DH aren't really the same off days that a normal pitcher would have. That is not something I was aware of last year. He's never pitched in his entire MLB career, so 3 seasons now. He's never pitched on 4 days rest. Ever. This season, 9 games with 5 days rest and 14 games with 6 or more days of rest. For me, it was like the argument of Ohtani was, look, in an era where roster sizes are capped, right? You only get so many spots. There was a real value in my mind of having Ohtani gives you more roster flexibility, right? You're able to carry an extra second baseman or an extra bullpen arm or whatever the case may be, right? I thought that was real valuable, right? But if you're having to have a 6-man rotation anyways, that paints you into a corner where you don't, like, all that roster flexibility is negated. And then beyond that, the fact that he like doesn't play outfield at all and only ever DHs. I mean, and we look at Mike Trout with his like weird back condition now, and the talk of him like not maybe being able to play outfield for the rest of his career. I know he's powered through this season. I mean, can't say enough good things about Mike Trout, but that's like, if you've got Ohtani who has to be DH every day and you need a 6-man rotation, that's actually like, in my mind, maybe the pendulum swung too far the other way, but that's actually like more restrictive for your roster management. That's not more flexibility. So that's really opened my eyes on that.
I agree with everything you're saying. I do want to just point out before we wrap this up, just a real quick little caveat here, that organizational philosophies on rest and how to deploy pitchers and players vary, and substantially. And it can even vary within the organization from coach to coach. And I think we saw this firsthand here in Toronto with Jordan Romano and the way that he was being deployed and used by Charlie Montoyo, and how differently he has been used by John Schneider. We have never, up until John Schneider took over as manager, seen Romano pitch more than 3 outs. He was always a guy who came in for 1 inning. He was a guy who wouldn't pitch more than 2 games back to back. And we've watched him go out there for 3 games in a row. We've watched him go out and get 4, 5, 6 outs since Schneider has taken over. And I'm not saying that necessarily Ohtani doesn't need the rest the Angels are giving him. And I understand why they are using the caution that they are using, because they're a terrible team. And right now their revenue literally depends on Ohtani being on the field and selling tickets and selling merch and all of this stuff. He's their money train. So of course they're being incredibly careful with him. But just because this is the way he's being deployed, I don't think it necessarily means that it is needed, that it is on Ohtani.
Okay.
I would deploy him differently, personally. I think he's a beast. I think we've never seen anything like this, and I would ride him until you can't, and then readjust.
Well, to make this argument go full circle, and the way a guy is implemented and used, right? Bryce Harper having a great offensive season as a full-time DH this year.
Yes, he was.
Since he's been moved into that role. Aaron Judge, if he was a full-time DH, all he had to worry about was swinging the bat, home run derby every night. Think he could get to 70 home runs if he was a full-time DH? If he was out there for 162 games, never had to play defense, and all he did. And I don't want to, this isn't related to the MVP talk or anything. Okay, this is moved on from that. You think he could catch Barry Bonds if he was a full-time DH?
No. I think Aaron Judge is a guy who would actually take a step back if he was a full-time DH. He seems so locked in, and I think him playing in the field keeps him in the game. But every guy, I mean, stuff like this is so intangible. Like, we're talking real abstract, right? Like,
none of it's adjusted for weather. You don't know.
None of it's adjusted for weather. Exactly.
All right, Scott. That's it for mailbag, unless you have anything else you want to add.
No, let's leave it at that.
Okay,
appreciate all of you who have interacted with us over the week. Really appreciate it. All the comments and the likes really means a lot. Please, if you've watched this far into the mailbag and you're not subscribed, consider doing so. Helps a lot. We really appreciate it. To all the audio listeners, a big shout out to you. Our numbers continue to grow week in and week out on our audio platforms, and we really appreciate all of you.
Quick apology there. We did get a comment again from the Shumway, who was complaining that some of our videos didn't make it to the audio side this week. So that's on me. Again, new schedule, new system. We'll be better.
We don't want you audio listeners feeling like you're our
redheaded stepchild.
I was going to say that, and I was like, is that offensive? But
yeah, you know what? Probably is. That's okay. My brother is redheaded, so I get a pass.
There you go. And it's the end of the show, and probably no one's watching at this point. There you go.
Right. There you go.
All right. Thanks again to everybody. You can always shoot us a message on Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast, on Twitter, at Walk Off Podcast. Join the Discord. It's a good time. Our Patreon, a big shout out to all of you there. We really appreciate it. We're running on a new computer, basically thanks to you and all of the very generous donations from our community. So a big shout out there. Do you got the list of names here we can run down real quick, Adam?
Yes, you bet. So patreon.com/the Walk Off Podcast. $1 a month, or $1 a week, sorry. Avraham, Michael, Sarah, John, Simon, Rashid, Joshua, Jeremy, Ian, Dunedin, Bob, John, Wyatt, Patrick, Joey, and Kyle.
Nice. Great job. You're getting to the point you need to do that in more than one breath. In fact, it's killing them right now.
Hacking up along right now. Hit the music.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on Friday.